Good evening, friends. Namaskar, Vanakkam, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Bonjour, Hola. Wherever you're tuning in from, welcome back to the Career Shifts podcast, Journey to the Future. Thank you, as always, for walking this journey with us. Every episode, every story, every voice we bring in here is part of a deep exploration, not just of careers, but of courage, of identity, of presence. And today's conversation shines a light, quite literally, on something we rarely talk about: how we show up before we even say a word. Because in this digital world, perhaps even distracted, AI powered world, first impressions aren't just as fast, they are forever. Our image, how we stand, how we hold ourselves, how we are seen, speaks louder than our LinkedIn summary or even a polished pitch deck. And that brings to me the guest today, Naina Perez, a woman who left high growth career at Amazon to step behind the camera and help leaders step into their future. Naina's work sits at the intersection of personal branding, visual identity, and executive presence. She just doesn't take headshots. She helps people remember who they are and project who they want to be. This conversation isn't about photography, it's about visibility, it's about identity, it's about what it means to be seen in a world that's constantly scrolling past. So, whether you are founder trying to build trust, or a leader seeking gravitas, or simply someone who is in transition, this one is going to be one episode which is going to change the way how you see yourself and maybe how the world sees you too. Let's dive in. Naina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Gopal. Thank you for this. I think it's a wonderful introduction. I've always been thinking how to introduce myself, and you've done it. You've done it better than I could have ever thought. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I think all credit goes to the wonderful journey that you've had. I know for a fact that we met through a common friend, Lochan, um, and Lochan and I know each other for the last 4 years now. And one day she just put a good picture of herself on LinkedIn. I'm like, wow, where did you get this clicked? And she said, there's a friend of mine who did that for me and got your number, pinged you, and I think you have played a very pivotal role in Career Shift's journey the way it is because one of the things that we did was to shoot right before my second month into the journey, and I'm glad that I did that because it's just helped me immensely as well. And I'm sure I'm not just one of one, but one of many more who have kind of benefited through this. Before we begin into the whole journey of thoughts and exploration of the career shifts, your own career shifts as well, any opening thoughts, anything that's coming to your mind as we speak?
Yes, I was also looking at that image when we started, and I had the same thought, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity. And yes, it's amazing that in a world which is getting so automated, getting it's moving so fast. The beauty of what stays today is still how we bridge connections, is how one person leads to another and how another leads to another. And in your example of Lochan connecting us is just one example like
Yeah.
that. So I'm really thankful. I have worked with Lochan very closely, and then with you, and yes, with a few more folks who have started out their journey. And I feel really blessed to have got these opportunities. So yeah, thank you so much, and excited for this
Incredible.
conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm sure a lot more is on its way after uh, this episode goes live. But having said that, you've had a very interesting career shift, which is what makes you a great candidate to be on this show as well. But this year, I'm also trying to explore what does it mean to be successful, and successful not with a view that we have to be having a certain number of assets or money or all of that, but just to be happy and successful in abundance. What does it take to be doing that in the future? and started having interesting conversations with people like my initial guests about attention, the career, coaching as one of the things, how public policy affects us and our lives, which was the episode 3 with Mr. Sharat Chandar. And of course, the tech and AI revolution that we are all seeing right now. So career shifts really is on its journey to the future and kind of trying to help. I mean, my mission was to just help even 1% of people listening into this. So, having said that, your journey of your shifts of what you used to do versus what you do now is a very interesting one. I want you to use this opportunity to share with our viewers, how did this happen?
How did this happen? Yes, it's a very interesting question, and I think life happened. I think a lot of experiences happened. We set out to do certain things in our life. We are conditioned to do certain things in our life. We follow a certain path, and then life happens.
Yeah.
So I've been in that traditional path. I did my schooling from Delhi, then I did a graduation in arts, which I absolutely loved, and then I did an MBA, and then I got campus placed, and I was very happy with what I was doing, and it was a great career path, looking really, really good. And then life just took us. There was a sudden turn. I had got married and then moved to Bombay. I was working with Tata Consultancy Services at that time. My husband got an opportunity to move to Cambodia, so we're in Bombay. I've just about started my career, and suddenly we're just thinking about, should we do Cambodia? And at that point in time, I didn't have kids, and responsibilities were slightly lesser than what they are today. Responsibilities are never less, but relatively they were lesser. So it was a chance that we thought we should take, and we just said, let's go for it. And that's where the first shift happened. So I moved out of TCS. Unfortunately, I couldn't continue with the company. They didn't have a base there. So, we left, and I had that whole expat life going on. And I tried to do what I could. I tried to do some freelancing. I even took up a stint in HR because that's what I had been pursuing for about 5 years prior to leaving. Did all of that. But there was a slow burning desire inside of me which wanted to do more. And I had that time and space, to be honest, with myself. And I said, how better can I utilize my time? Our first son happened around that time. I picked up the camera. I started photographing him. Whenever somebody asks me, how long has it been since you've been photographing, it's a direct correlation. How long, how old is Kabir today? So he's like 10, and this is my 10th year, right? Because that was the first time I picked up the camera. I started photographing, and then one thing just led to another. Right now, cutting a long story short, I had a very stable career, and we moved. So we were in Cambodia, then we moved to Vietnam for 3 years. I did some commercial assignments there. I tried to stay in touch with HR, came back, and then the most obvious thing, right? We've all studied, and I've done my MBA, and I was working in a good company. Should I go back to it, right? Like that urge to just jump in back to the corporate was so high. So I said, okay, let me do that. I was lucky enough to get a break with Amazon, and that's when I joined back Amazon. Now what happened is that I got totally sucked into the work. I loved my stint at Amazon. I did some very interesting projects. I did tech hiring, then I did MBA hiring, then I was in the diversity space. So, got a number of roles at Amazon, which I was really happy with. But what happens is that, you get so absorbed with what you're doing that you don't really have the time to explore anything else. But I think, Gopal, the pull, I think, for photography was so high that even when I was working in those 4 years, I used to work Monday to Friday, but I used to pick up the camera and I used to be out on the streets, or I used to be photographing friends and family or anybody, and that was my weekend, and it used to just go past. So I was just like, if there is something which is pulling me so much, why am I not doing more of it? All right, but I won't lie. I mean, this shift hasn't happened suddenly. A shift to Cambodia was far easier. From Cambodia to Vietnam was far easier. Coming back to a job also was very easy, but leaving it for good, which I did
Yeah.
2 years ago, right? Mindfully. The other experiences or the other breaks that I had were circumstantial. This one was a choice. This one was mindfully my decision, right? That
Mm.
I want to do more of this as against what I'm currently doing. But I won't lie, right? Leaving a perfectly stable career with an amazing path forward, really good managers. I often thought about it, right? I often thought about what success should look like. I often thought about the idea of security. I often thought about, how we keep talking about how can you make a hobby a career? It's a hobby. Like you're holding a camera. How can you make a business out of it? Right? So that it was a back and forth for some time. But like I just mentioned, right, that every time I was behind the lens, there was a different energy that I had. And I have photographed you. I hope you feel that. And I have heard clients feel that, they get energized when I am with them. So I just felt that, if I can create something like that of my own, why not give it a chance? What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen? Right. I've restarted so many times. So I didn't have that fear. But having said that, there was a lot of back and forth, and I think we can talk about it later as well. Financial security, stability, how we will logistically make this work. I mean, I was richer by two children by then, so I have two sons now, and and a family. So these are things that we had to discuss and debate, and then finally take a call. But yeah, I think all in all, it worked out, and here I am. About almost a year and a half since I have quit the corporate and loving,
Yeah.
loving what I'm doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think we have seen a lot of people take that decision to quit at peak, and it works really well for them when they do it that way,
Yeah.
versus finding themselves in a situation where uh, you didn't really plan for it and it happened because of the current climate of work, the jobs, and the way it is. And it becomes very hard. And unfortunately, some of them don't even have an iota of doubt in terms of what passion should they pursue that can be monetized. So kudos to you. At least you found that passion for yourself. You had the you had the inclination towards picking up the camera and doing what you did throughout this journey. And yeah, and I think um, whoever is listening in should really take the cue from this to say, at least pursue some passion for yourself. It could be anything as small, as trivial as that, but it really helps you in the longer run. Well, that takes me to the next question that I have for you, which is, I was going through your bio as we were planning for this episode, and one thing that really stood out for me was what you've written in there, which says your image speaks before you do, and that's a very powerful line. And walk us through that. I mean, how did you arrive at this insight, and why do you think it is something that most professionals overlook?
Yeah. So I wrote my bio multiple times. I used to write it, then I used to rewrite it, then I used to think about it. Then it's taken a while to write it, but yeah, whatever I have written, I genuinely mean it, and it's really coming from experience, from my heart. I have seen it, right, and I over the last 3 years, when I have been shooting on and off, of course, 1.5 now full time, but I have been in this space for about 3+ years. Um,
Yeah.
I have realized that today, especially today, Gopal, I think in today's virtual world, right, visuals are not just accessories anymore. I think they are pure play essence. Um, Positioning, like everyone talks about, is the trending word. It's not just a trend. I think to have a good headshot, to look good, to feel good, to show up well, is positioning, and it is a must. Right. I was hearing a podcast recently, and I heard this line, which I thought was really nice. I actually penned it down. It said, visibility is the oxygen for opportunity. And I genuinely feel that is so true, right? Because nowadays, having a shabby profile, having an outdated photo. I mean, and like you rightly called out, right? You are seen before you are spoken. Like even if I'm meeting a client for the first time, and I'm even if I'm having a conversation with them, I just want to know what they're all about, right? And the first thing I'll go and do is just get a LinkedIn update. It doesn't mean any harm. I'm just trying to get to know the person, right? So I genuinely feel it is so important to look good, to show up well, to conduct yourself well, and that's why I say what I say, right? And you asked me that you think that professionals are overlooking it. I personally don't think most professionals are overlooking it today. This may have been the case a few years ago. I see it changing, right? I feel, in fact, the ones who are really serious about their work, the ones who want to show up well, the ones who are invested in themselves, truly understand the meaning of a brand. And I have seen clients through these journeys. I have seen clients who've had absolutely no social digital presence to building a genuine following, right? It's not that they are becoming influencers, or they've got like these tens and thousands of paid followers, but they are building a tribe, and they are building it purely because of the way they are showing up, right? And for those who are overlooking it, I can only say that you are your product. You are you. Like a career shifts for me is Gopal Iyer, right? A photographer who approaches me, I would like them to approach Naina for Naina, right? For the experience that Naina will bring, and not just another photographer, because there are so many out there. So what really differentiates you, me, and so many others who are building a brand is how we show up and what experience we provide, right? And the portrait photographer in me will always and always say, please exist in photos. Exist in photos for your children. Exist in photos for your families. Exist in photos for yourself, because it is truly the most priceless gift that you can give yourself, right? We need to own it, and we need to really, really show up well, right? And another thing that I keep hearing is life is a dress rehearsal. And I really want to say that life is not a dress rehearsal, right? Let's stop acting like it is, because it's not. It is unfortunate, fortunate. It's a topic for another podcast maybe, but a book is judged by its cover today, right? So
Yes.
you got to go there and show up unapologetically, and be your true magnetic self. And I think that's the only thing I want to say and stop at.
Well, very well said. And I often tell people when they reach out to me, and typically mid careers, one of the first things that they need to really look into is themselves and how they are being seen in the world, in the corporate world. Because as you said, I mean, the first thing that you would look at whenever you search your name on Google is your LinkedIn profile. And if it is not done well, yeah, guess what happens after that? So just take that interest in keeping that part correct, and of course, yes, then do the other bit of building your social brand, social media presence, and all of what you said is absolutely. And I'm glad that when you say that, people today are trying to look at it differently, which is a very positive change, and a much needed change as well. We'll shift back the focus to you, your journey. But before that, I have a question. Nana means eyes, and you are in the photography business. Is that coincidence, or was that intentional?
I can't believe I would wonder if my mom was such a visionary that she named me Naina, knowing that life is going to come a full circle. But there's a reason why my name is Naina, by the way, and I can bring it out here. My mom,
Sure.
she actually thought of the name Naina from Naina Lal Kidwai, who is
Mm.
yes, so she was the head girl at that time in my mom's school, and
Mm.
inspiring then, inspiring today. I think she made up her mind that if she ever has a daughter, she's going to name her after Naina Lal Kidwai. So
Wow.
so not in a bank, but
Good.
behind the lens.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, there is something to do with that. So maybe you should, in your bio, add this one as well.
Yeah.
So, the world of journeys from corporate to creative also always happens with a lot of um, doubts, uh, worries about whether this will work. And I'll come to a slightly bigger issue with that is the business acumen and sense of making money through whatever you're doing in a bit. But walk us through your journey. I mean, you shared a bit about how that journey was talking to your family, but break it down in a bit more detail because I'm sure a lot of people who would be listening to this would have tons of questions and self doubts um, in themselves when they are going through this. So, you know, one of the biggest challenges inability to sell, and that's another part that we would want to focus on. But yeah, walk us through that journey if you can.
Sure, and I think it's a very important and valid question that you ask. It's a question that I asked myself several times. It's still a question I ask myself several times. I will be honest that it's work in progress. I'm evolving.
Mm,
In fact, my yesterday's LinkedIn post just talks about how success evolves at every stage,
yes.
and this thought came from there. Um, Truly, I'm still trying to figure it out. I am still trying to figure out how to blend discipline with creative freedom. I am still trying to understand how to create a rhythm for my day, which was so well structured and so well laid out Monday to Friday, right? People noticed when you showed up, people noticed when you spoke. Feedback came to you in a structured manner. There were meetings, there were appraisals,
Yeah.
you would get rewarded, right? It all happened so in such a beautiful structure. And when I look at my path today, right, like I said, I have to create that structure, I have to build that rhythm. um,
Yeah.
and most importantly, you spoke about it a few minutes back, the monetary aspect of it. 100%, it takes a hit. It takes a hit sometimes for the good, sometimes for not so good, right? But I think you have to be open to the idea that there will be months which would be lean, and there would be months which would be double or triple of what you would have earned. And I started my journey by creating this little Excel sheet, and I used to actually write, what am I earning per shoot, and then what is the gross, and what is the net, and what have I finally earned, and I used to get very excited about it. So that's how small it was, and that's how because I wanted to kind of see, like, is this making sense? Is it adding up? Is it going to add up? Okay, even if it's not adding up today, 6 months down, or a financial year down, am I going to be somewhere where I was? And when I left, I said to myself that, even if I am about 50% there, I am going to stick to this. And it's been a financial year down.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can very proudly and excitedly say that it has worked in my favor. It has worked very well in my favor. Um, and I mean, I don't want to, bring in numbers here, but it's a sign that it's working, right?
Mm,
And don't regret your decision because you're on the right
yeah.
path. So but yeah, those aspects come into your mind. You do feel, where is this headed? Those moments of anxiety, they still creep in, right? There are months when I've got amazing projects, and then there are months where I have projects but they're not as lucrative. But am I still not working? 100% I'm working. But is it going to come in the same shape and form monetarily as it did in the corporate? Maybe not, right? But what I've understood is that when you're doing your own work, and it's taken me a while to understand this, you have to consistently show up. You have to
Yeah.
consistently, regularly, habitually, relentlessly be out there. There is no two ways
Sure.
about it. And when it is your own business, and when it is your own path that you're trying to chart, it all depends on you, right? It is exactly the function of how much you're there. So I don't call it vanity. If I am showing off my accomplishments, and if I am proud of my testimonials, I think it works wonders for me, because my clients love to hear existing stories, and it gets me the right sort of visibility, and I in turn get work. So I don't see anything wrong in positioning yourself and being out there. But yeah, that is my journey. so far. And like I said, I'm work in progress. And yeah, we will see how we are one more financial year down.
Great, great, great. I want to dig a little more deeper on the aspect of being able to come up with that strategy of this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to make by doing this. And often I have seen people having extreme amount of struggle in being able to get the confidence in being able to do that. Let's say in the training space, people often undersell themselves. In the photography space, probably people also quote a particular number which could be much lower without really knowing what should the ideal number be. And unlike the when you are from HR, so you would know this well. Unlike the comp reports published by the large names, where they say, yeah, India is going to make 9% hikes every year. Unfortunately, there is no reports that consultants and freelancers can rely on. So it all becomes a factor of how good you are at your work. Help us understand, how did you go through that process? What benchmarks did you go through? And for anyone listening in, it would be a good masterclass if I can say that, to say this is how you get to that.
So, like you rightly said, there is no benchmark. When I started, I of course I did a little bit of research and figure it out, and how much is a photographer in my space sort of earning. And what I also realized is that there is a supply deficit in what I am doing, which made me feel very wonderful. Like, I felt that there aren't too many photographers who are in the business portrait space, so that made my life harder in terms of
Yeah,
benchmarking. But the flip side was that, yeah, so I
you
did
became the
realize,
benchmark.
sort of, if I can say that, yes. But yeah,
Yeah,
so but I had started with children and
yeah.
family portraits, and I had that. So
We
I
can see
was,
some of that behind yours
yes.
on the wall.
So it was all trial and error. It was a lot of experimentation. I started with, charging X amount, and you won't believe it. I had clients saying, "Why are you charging so less? Like, what are you doing?" I had people
Wow.
tell me, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And this was in my first year. I had clients say that, Naina, we would love to pay more for what you're doing. Like, please
Mm.
don't charge. And so that was a, an eye opener. Okay, I should think about this. Then I went back, I did a little more research. But I do think it is a function of expertise. It is a function of, the amount of time and effort that you invest in your craft, which
Correct.
will also help you then finally demand a price, right? I cannot, and I was just starting out. So I was actually very happy at charging at a very, very low price. But that
Yeah.
somehow didn't really agree with a lot of people, and they said, you're underselling yourself, like you rightly said. So
Mm.
I actually heard the voice of my clients, and I learned from everyone around me. And read books, did some research, and then slowly, as time went and as months went, I upped my prices. I saw that people were willing to pay, a little bit more, and then you finally you reach a point where you feel, okay, this satisfies me and this is great for my client, and that's when you kind of stop and you say, this is the point, right? And I think that happens. There's no formula for it. Like you rightly said, freelancers don't have a CNB report which gets published, so we don't know. but um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's a mix of a gut instinct experience, and then you arrive at a number.
Yeah.
At least that's how it's worked for me.
Wonderful. I think a lot of people listening in will get a lot of comfort in listening to this basis. Reaching out to others would be a good starting point. And of course, there are people who would be willing to share selflessly. And I'm sure, like you, I have had my own set of people who selflessly help out in this space. So I'm sure.
Yeah. I
Um,
think we have to just listen to the voice of the
yes.
people you're working with, listen to family, listen to friends, listen to your mentors. Just keep listening and absorbing, because you're new, you don't know
Yeah.
better. So that's the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get into the hardest aspect of going solo and doing on your own work, which is being able to sell doesn't come naturally to a lot of us. And you did say that it's all about showing up every single day, no matter what happens. But for the society that we live in, it becomes very hard to be able to sell. Walk us through your journey. How did you overcome that issue, and what did you do differently? If you are able to shed some light on that.
So are we talking of the business of photography? Like if you
Yes,
can
yes,
rephrase the question
yes.
for me a little bit,
So selling your photography,
selling the craft, right?
um, the craft, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a tricky one, and it flows from my previous response. Most people think photography is pure play creativity, right? And I have tried to build a business around it, right? I've tried to do that. And what I've also noticed is that the people who grow the fastest, right, aren't always the most qualified. And I can speak from the creative space, from the business space. They're the ones who stand out. They are the ones who have the courage to look polished. They are the ones who, are the ones showing up professionally. They're also the ones who understand the meaning and the true definition of a personal brand and the value of creating that brand, right? I was reading a report the other day which said McKinsey is saying that 30% of our work tasks are going to be automated by 2030. We are already at 2025. So that's not very far away, right?
I'm scared.
So, yeah, I think it's something that we all need to be vigilant about, right? But
Yeah,
that's where I think that in a world which is going to get so automated so fast,
yeah,
what's really going to stand out, right, is going to be the human brand. And that
correct.
doesn't only come from your images, that comes from how you show up, your personal brand, right? It may not be the perfect one, but it's going to be the real one. And that's what I'm really leveraging on when I'm going about
Mm,
to build a business around this. So that's the
mm,
way I look at it. How you humanize the brand and how the experience that you will provide will be
correct.
the differentiator. I mean,
Beautifully
there can
said.
be many
Beautifully
clones
said.
being made, but the experience that you will finally provide is what's going to
Yeah,
make you
yeah,
stand out from the remaining. Yeah.
correct. And that it becomes a factor that people really value.
Yes.
You also do an interesting work, which is basically combining the work that you do into running workshops on
Yeah.
personal branding. Walk us through that. Like, what have you observed as part of what participants come and say do? And any anecdotes or any interesting insights that you want to share to the community.
So I had this, and the journey of personal branding workshop started with a client who actually reached out to me. They just identified my profile on LinkedIn. They had seen that I had worked in the corporate and I was a photographer, and they reached out saying that can you craft a personal branding workshop for us? And
Wow.
can you and that was a surprise to me because it's not something, and this was my first stint I'm talking of when I did it the very first time. So they said that we've got these high potential sales leaders, we want you to craft a personal branding workshop for them, and tell us what you can deliver. And it was so interesting that how people see opportunities. Like, you see an opportunity, but people also see your brand, see who you are, and actually have a belief that you can deliver something which is so unique. I had not thought of it till my client actually thought of it for me. And yeah, it was quite surprising. This was the very first time that it happened, right? And yeah, and that's where the journey began. And I actually crafted a whole personal branding workshop. I started learning more about how to sell your brand, how to sell yourself, and then we clubbed it with headshots. So I do this a lot now for
Mm,
corporate. It's a very interesting package, if for the lack of a better word. We What we do is we study the essence of personal branding. We spend about half a day in that, and then we follow it up with headshots. So what you learn in theory, and then you walk away with a strong headshot that you remember for times to come, and you use it, right? So that's something that we're doing a lot now. Yeah.
lovely, lovely. And I'm sure a lot of stories are coming out of that as well. Which um, one of them you shot was my ex. co-founder, Sumer, and it was really nice to see him and your photograph with him. So, how did that journey happen? Like, how was the whole experience?
The experience was amazing, and again, it came through LinkedIn. I didn't know
Hmm.
Sumer at all from, but as life happened, I don't know. I don't know if you happened to read that post, but when we got into the shoot, we realized we had so many common connects. And my mother is from the
Yes.
HR world herself, and he happened to know her back in 20 years ago, and I was just amazed.
Wow.
So it was fantastic. He connected with me on LinkedIn, and then he said, he actually told me, he said, this is going to be the toughest assignment that you've handled, right? And he told me his story, such a deep story,
Yes.
and he'd gone through
Yeah.
so much. And he says, are you sure you'll be able to, make a person like me, like, be out there and do? I said, I love it. But I love these challenges, and this is what makes me very excited, right? Because it's easy to photograph
Yeah.
someone who's like perfectly good looking, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and Sumer has a vibe. He was so good.
Oh
He was so
yes.
natural, and there's so much substance, right? So it was so nice and heartwarming to photograph him. Yeah. So that was my experience with
Lovely.
Sumer.
Lovely. Incredible. So, Nana, you have shot across at least 5 or more countries now, and many continents for that matter. What's it working with different professionals or different cultures, and how has it shaped your own perception, your own art and craft?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one, and I often think about it myself. That the travel, the meeting different people from different cultures has taught me so much. Truly, traveling, I think, is the best teacher. And I'll get to how whatever I've learned, but I also make it a point, and this is for all the listeners, in case you're on this journey. Make it a point to upskill, make it a point to go outside your comfort zone and do things which don't come very naturally to you. Street photography was one of them. Traveling to different parts of the world was one of them. I used to save money, and I used to keep this in my kitty and say that this year I'm going to do this. And I have traveled places like Nepal and Rajasthan and Ladakh, and all these are on photography tours that I did myself
Mm.
with a photo group. Right, and it was purely to understand the nuances of culture of people, and how and it all adds up, right? Photographing someone in Rajasthan on a street taught me so much. Photographing a monk in Ladakh taught me so much. Like, these are small instances, but they are so deep, and they teach you so much about connection, about patience. And these are all things that you use them in the corporate world. Here you use them you use them
True.
when you're photographing children, so you don't know where what is adding up, right? So I think traveling and meeting people from different cultures has been my best teacher so far. uh, Expectations vary, right? When I was in and I will also say that I have been rather fortunate to have traveled and lived in those countries. So whether it was a Cambodia, whether it was Vietnam, we got the opportunity. Even India, we've lived in many cities in India which teach you a lot. So having said that, right, going back, if I go back a little to my Cambodia journey and Vietnam, where I actually started photography, I wasn't only photographing Cambodians and Vietnamese, and the beauty of those countries is that they take in so many expats. You have so many expats living there, so just by the virtue of being in those countries, I photographed Europeans, Japanese, Chinese, and they were all there, right? And it was really nice to see how. So my product doesn't change, right? The experience that I provide doesn't change. I'm also, at the end of the day, giving you a memory that you will hold for a lifetime. But how a Japanese approached me was very different from how a Chinese approached me. A Chinese approached me very differently from how a European approached me. And I think those are things, and when you work with different clients, you also learn how to adapt and tweak. So,
Mm.
you learn to deal with different situations, different environments, and that makes you so much more confident. Today, when I come back closer home, I have been fortunate to have lived in major metros, right? Like, I'm from Delhi, but I have spent about 5 years in Bangalore. I've spent 4 years in Bombay, and I've luckily been able to photograph a lot of clients from all these cities. And I can say, Gopal, that even within India, the nuances of photographing people from the north as compared to from the south, compared to from the west, they are so different. Small things like how you show up for a photograph, small things like, do you have a studio? I'm not going to say which culture tells me what. I would like to avoid that. But, things like, okay, do you have
That's
a studio?
that.
Uh, you know, uh, I'm game. Where are we meeting? Which park are we going to? I'm going to come fully suited. It doesn't matter which car I'm driving. It doesn't matter if it's chauffeur driven. I trust you and I trust the process, and let's experiment. There are, there are cities which would speak of that, and then there are certain other cities which are slightly more layered, and because it's more like, how will I show up? Will certain people see me the way I am? Like, I could be photographing somebody in a park, in one city, and somebody will be like, can we just take a little right, because I don't want my friends to see me. So those are things, and these are cues you pick up. These are cues you pick up in different cities, different cultures. So it makes you so much more confident by the end of it. And it teaches you a hell of a lot, right? So broadens your horizons, gives you a wholesome perspective. And I think just the exposure makes you a far more confident person. And I think that would be my USP as against any other photographer who would want to, who is probably operating in the same space.
Lovely. Now let's kind of shift the focus to the journey to the future. Um, there's a whole lot of AI revolution that's happening. You just
Insane.
said that McKinsey is saying that 30% of jobs will, disappear or perhaps be done differently than how it is being done today. We in India have a very peculiar problem as well, which is lack of skills and too big a population, and not as many. The need for roles is there, but we aren't doing enough to be able to match the two. So the demand is there, but supply is not, coming together to meet the demands. In such a situation, more specifically, how do you see the future of personal branding, and how do you see professional leaders evolving in how they present themselves visually and vocally?
Sure. So I'll take the AI bit first, right? I think the most talked about, the most trending
Yeah,
topic in all our lives. And I've been asked a lot about this myself, that as a creative professional, do you feel it's a threat to you and all of
yeah,
that, right? Um, I think 100% we need to agree that AI is here to stay. AI is here to make improvements. Here, AI is here to increase efficiencies. Like there's a plethora of good things that's happening because of AI. I think in the creative space and otherwise. And I think it'll be foolish to overlook it, right? Or be complacent about the fact that it is coming, and it's coming in probably every single space that you can imagine. Um, Talking of the creative field, I do feel that if I'm asked that question, I may not lose my job to AI, but I may definitely lose, not me, I will lose my job
mm,
to a person who knows how to use AI. So if
mm,
I am not going to, upskill, and if I'm not going to learn how AI can be beneficial to me, I'm definitely going to be losing out. All right. Um, but having said that, I would also like to say that AI is a part of the value chain. It is not the whole
yeah,
process. Right? It is a part which is helping us, which is doing well for us, but there is a very significant part which is still ours to own, right? And that is the human element. That is the human, the human connect, the trust, the experience. And I speak about this all the time, specifically in my field, if I can say so. The I make my clients feel seen, heard. There is a trust element, there is an experience, and there is a connect, which I want to draw from every client experience, from every shoot that I walk out of, and I would want them to feel, more of that. So that AI isn't doing that, and AI isn't doing that in a hurry, right?
Ghibli
So I
also
have,
don't know it.
sorry.
Ghibli pictures that people are posting these days on their profile photographs.
We'll see how long that lasts. I'm
Well, I've
waiting. I'm
seen
waiting.
I've seen a few people update that as their pictures on LinkedIn as well, which is like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why are you doing it? But yeah.
We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's great to see. These are new experiments, but yes,
Yeah.
and that's what I say, right? That there's only so much that AI can do. AI can definitely churn out 100 looking Gopals and 100 looking Nainas, but will will the client get the same experience? Is he feeling heard? Is he feeling seen? Is the woman who
Hmm.
tells me that, Nena, the 45 minutes I have spent with you today, I have not spent that kind of time with myself in 7 years. I had somebody tell me
Yeah.
that just a few months ago, and I thought that was a win. So I think if one can make somebody feel special
Very
about
true.
themselves, improve their feel good about themselves, and work out feeling better than what they came in as, I think that's just amazing, right? So that's a little about AI. Now coming to the personal branding and how I'm seeing things shift. I think, like I said, even earlier on, Gopal, I don't think anybody wants to look shabby today. People approach
Hmm.
me for improving a Instagram thumbnail. Like, I have folks who are
Hmm.
nowhere there, but who are building an Instagram page. Like, they've not got a website, they've not done anything. I'm starting from scratch, but Nena, I want to have a smart thumbnail. So if somebody is thinking so deep and so small, which is actually creating such a deep impact, it makes me believe nobody wants to look shabby anymore, right? Nobody wants to go out not well turned out, right? So be it a LinkedIn thumbnail, be it an Instagram thumbnail, be it a full blown profile shot that you need for your website. um, I have varied clients, right? From numerologists to astrologers to founders to very, very different sort of profiles
Wow.
that I'm photographing. Yes. Yeah. And very recently, I photographed an astronumerologist, by the way, and he was a strategy consultant turned astronumerologist. So I have
Wow.
actually never met such an interesting personality. And even he was like, I need to up my game in terms of personal branding, right? So I'm seeing things are changing, and things are changing for the good. People are willing to and believing that investing in themselves does make a difference. Vocally also, I do see a drastic shift in the way people are presenting themselves, moving from just imagery. I think the content that you see on LinkedIn, people are
Hmm.
writing so much, be it Nas Daily, be it Karishma Mehta, be it so many people who are out there sharing stories and sharing good authentic stories and perspectives, right? They are owning digital platforms really well, and they're doing a great job of it, right? Now,
Yeah.
how authentic are you? Right now, when clients come and ask me on personal branding, I just have 4 questions to ask them before we take on any personal branding workshop or even a photo session, right? I just say, you are the brand, right? Do you like the way your brand is showing up? Right? Do you like it right now? You are the voice. Do you like what you're speaking, what you're saying, right? You are the face. Do you like the way you look, right? Or do you like the
Hmm.
way that you're showing up, right? And most importantly, you are the energy. So are you feeling value in what you're doing? Because if you're not, and these are 4 very critical elements, and we have to stitch all these 4 pieces for a wholesome personal brand, in my personal opinion, right? Because if you're not going to value yourself, nobody is going to value you. And that's something I think that, I mean, there's no rocket science to it. But that's how I see it. So yes, I do see a drastic shift happening, and a drastic shift for the good.
Well, I really hope that this really helps people in showing up and being themselves authentically, and at the same time also value themselves better in the digital world, if I can say that. It was great chatting with you, Naina. But there is a ritual that I do in every episode, which is something that you're not ready with, which is rapid fire.
Ooh.
Questions, which I will ask, and then let's see where this goes. So, one photo that you have taken that has changed you, not the subject.
A photo of my mentor at Amazon.
Oh, wow, great. Executive presence in one word.
one word: brand.
Got
I'm
it.
trying to stick to the brief.
Sure. What's the more powerful, a voice that speaks or an image that lingers?
An image that lingers.
One visual mistake that even smartest leader make.
I didn't get you. Sorry.
One visual mistake even the smartest leaders make.
I think not showing up as their true selves.
Got it. Uh, if your camera could speak, what would it say about you?
You're doing a pretty decent job.
Love it. So that's pretty much that I had, Naina. Really, thank you for coming up and sharing your journey, your stories, how you reinvented yourself, and you're doing some incredible work. Um, watch out for people reaching out to you and asking the number of astronumerologist.
Yes, amazing, right?
So before we wrap up, any parting thoughts that you have for people?
No, I think this is a wonderful conversation. It's a great platform, and what I loved about this podcast and the many that I have seen of yours is that they're very real. They are very grounded, and people on your podcast are fully present, which I absolutely love. Right, there are no scripts, and there are no big topics being discussed, and there's no business and strategy and all of that. Like, we get enough of that in any case, right? So
Yeah.
it's really nice to have these candid conversations. I think one learns a lot from these conversations, and that's really my endeavor also as a photographer when I go out and meet clients. And I don't know if I'll be meeting any on your guest list today, but my endeavor is always to get to know a little bit more about the person.
Yeah.
There's enough and more about business and all of that. We read about it, and we have enough and more information is available at zero cost today. But what is that one extra thing that you can learn from the person and
Yeah.
share? I think that's the beauty of this. So thank you so much, and it's been wonderful being here.
Lovely. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you taking time speaking to us. And I'm sure a lot of listeners, people who are watching this, would really take benefit out of what we spoke in the last hour or so. Um, you showed us that the lens doesn't just capture, but it reveals. And you reminded us that personal branding isn't vanity, but it is visibility, which is what a lot of people have started realizing and believing in. And presence isn't just a pose, but it's the power. So I would say it's a new playbook of leadership that we learned today in this episode. And as something you embody in every frame, every scroll, every moment you show up on any platform that you're kind of going to be there, which is what is the hope that I have for a lot of people watching, listening in. To everyone listening in, thank you for watching, listening, whichever platform that you're listening to this one. It wasn't an episode about photography. It was more an episode about presence. It was more an episode about branding. It was more an episode about identity, and it was about courage to be seen, even before you're fully ready. At many a times, so the wisdom to shape how the world meets you before it makes up your mind is what we learned today. And I hope you take enough and more learnings from this episode, apply, reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to Naina through LinkedIn or other social media platforms for any questions that you have about all of this that you just heard. And I'm sure you will get more enlightened as we, discover through the process. If you ever doubted your story, your face, your place in the fast moving world, let this be your reminder. You don't need to look like someone else to be taken seriously. You need to look like you, with clarity, with confidence, and conviction. So, thank you for tuning in to the journey to the future. We've got some really interesting stories coming up about reinventions, about bold shifts, about the future of India as well in the coming weeks. So until next time, stay visible, stay real, and remember, smile, please. That's what we are here for. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.